I got to tell you about the story of how I was told to be a chatbot and how I solved the problem and what I learned from it. So before that, I got to introduce myself. If you have talked to me in the conference, maybe you already know me, but I got to introduce myself again. So I'm based in London at the moment. So I'm the co-organizer of London Python Sprints. We try to get people to contribute to open source projects, so we would be gathering together and start hacking around, you know. And also, I'm the co-organizer of AI Club for Gender Minorities, so we promote diversion and inclusions in the tech community. And also this year, I help in the organizing the programming work group of the EuroPython. I also contribute to different libraries, especially I would really want to thank Cheuk because it's a really good library. That is my first library that I contribute to, and I learned so much from it. So big thanks for Paul, the maintainer of Cheuk. And I also create mine. I was doing some experimental things, so I built this pick and mix, which is some tools for machine learning. So if you want to know more, come talk to me. I have some stickers for you as well. I also volunteer for the also diversity and inclusion committee of NumFocus. So, okay, let's talk about Chatbot. So yeah, it's very cool, right? Chatbot, everybody, want to have some, something to impress your customer, and maybe you can cut costs by not having some real person as your customer service. But yeah, what is a chatbot actually? So according to the Oxford Dictionary, the computer program designed to simulate a conversation. So basically mean a robot that can talk as if that's a human. Also, one thing we also talk about all the time is the Turing test, which of course is proposed by Alan Turing. Everybody know who he is. He's like the icon figure in AI and computer science. And so he proposed that there is a test that we could find somebody who is our test subject to sit in a room and start, typing and chatting to a thing, right? It could be a human, it could be a chatbot, you don't know. So the question is, can this test person knows that he or she is talking to a computer or a real human being? So if a machine can pass us a human, then that's passed the Turing test. So yeah, nowadays we do have a lot of chatbots in our we came across in our life. They may not pass the Turing test, but they do help us a lot in all aspects. For example, earlier this year or last year, I really can't remember, that Google announced that we have an assistant people can call and to book your hairdresser. It's super cool, and people got really excited about it. And also, they are selling Google Home for quite a while now, so you can have an assistant at home that you can basically ask questions and tell your assistant what to do. If you connect it to your gadgets at home, you can control the lights or whatever, or music, So yeah, and some people was like, oh, do you think they know jokes? So they would be like, oh, tell me a joke, Basically, I think what your assistant would do is go online and find some jokes. Yeah, not as good as the one in the Lightning talk yesterday, but yeah. And also, not just Google and all these big giant company. There's also one company in China. They're also providing this service. Anybody heard about WeChat before? No? Yes? No? So it's like a Chinese version of WhatsApp plus Facebook plus everything, like PayPal. So yeah, they do everything, right? You can transfer money. You can do a lot of things. So they also provide this chatbot ability. But China, there's one thing that they have their own version of things because they can do censorship. So if you use WeChat and send some sensitive word, then your message may not go through, and they know you send that. So yeah, that's true. I'm not saying, but yeah. Anyway, so also not just all these. We also, I don't know, have you heard about Babylon here? Do you have Babylon here in Ireland? Yes, no, maybe? Yeah, because like Babylon is a company, a startup company in London. So what happened? Because in the UK we have the NHS, and then so basically your medical basic needs are covered so far. I don't know what's happening in the future, but yeah. So yeah, Babylon is a service that you can basically book your GP appointment and talk to a doctor online. So this because they are doing healthcare and doing technology, so they're trying to implement a chatbot that you can talk to this chatbot and have your symptom analyzed and know anything's wrong, like you can get the right medicine or get the right care quicker. But this chatbot, it has been challenged by a lot of people because you're not talking about customer service or buying things, or you're talking about health. So it's quite serious, and people really want to make sure that the chatbot is as good as a human, so or a doctor, a professional, before they really trust this robot. Also, one of the services that I have used before is this chatbot called Rita. That's by Revolut, because I use Revolut. Yeah, it's very convenient because I can have some euros inside. So if I travel to Europe, then I can use it. So what happened is I have a story to tell, right? With this Revolut chatbot. So I used my Revolut card when I travel abroad. Earlier this year, I traveled to Namibia. Not in Europe, but south of Africa. So it was fun, but I didn't bring a lot of cash with me because it's quite a long travel. So I have Revolut, and I know that you can get cash locally in Namibia with Revolut, which is quite good, right? So I bring my card with me, and I rely on it to get some cash from the machine. But some problem happened. I don't know why they deny my, I can't get cash from that machine for obscure reasons, and I was scared. Like, oh, is my account going to be okay? Is it being locked or something? So I tried to find some customer service to help me, and I used the app. But when I start talking to this customer support, then I realized that it's a chatbot. And then my first reaction is like, can I talk to a real person? Because I still, feel that I want my problem to be solved, and I don't want to go round in circle with this chatbot, right? So I just like, okay, can I talk to a real person? So yeah, I would mention this again when I talk about what I suggest if you build a chatbot. So that's something that we have to be aware of, because your user may react that way, like me. So okay, enough about general idea about chatbot. So I want to tell you that a chatbot is actually a quite complex thing. According to this blog post that I found, it's Bot Society. I think I don't know if you have come across it or not, but they said that the chatbot have four main components, which I quite agree. So I posted here. So first of all, you have the natural language processing component, because for a chatbot to understand human language, English or sometimes even other languages that we use to communicate between humans, that for machine to understand that is quite difficult. So now you have these. It's kind of like a very common word now. NLP, natural language processing, is like, because I work as a data scientist in my past few years, and always got recruiters asking me, oh, do you have experience with NLP? Because our client wants to hire someone to do this NLP thing, So yeah, so it's always a challenge for us to make the machine understand human languages. So we have some algorithm, and with the help of deep learning or this machine learning, we are doing quite well so far. So yeah, so for your chatbot, the first thing is like it needs to understand what you're saying. So natural language processing, and the second one will be the dialogue manager, because when you talk to someone, it's actually a flow of dialogue. So if you ask, how are you? And then the other person answer, I'm good, thank you. And then, have you seen this talk before? And then, God asks. So it's like a flow of dialogue, right? So you're trying to, sometimes you just chit-chat, but a lot of times when let's say if you talk to a person behind a counter, you have a purpose, right? You want to buy something. You're asking for something. So there's a flow of dialogue. So in a chatbot, when you talk to your user, your customer, you also have to manage how this dialogue goes. What's the reasonable answer to that question by the user? Yeah, the content is going with the dialogue manager. It's like what to prompt back to the user, right? So how to answer the question. Do you get the information that the user wants? So all these contents, you have to manage them. It could be from the internet, you do a search, like the joke that I talk about, or it could be something in the database. Maybe somebody was asking, how much money do I have in the account? So you have to go to the database and check how much money they have, and then give the information back to the user. The other will be there's also some integration, some extra features that you may have. For example, like I said, when you need to get the contents about the user that you store earlier, so you have the database, so you have to send the data back and forth and manage it. And or you can even do sentiment analysis, which I've tried a little bit. It's quite fun to see if the user is angry or not. So So all these involve different field of knowledge. For example, natural language processing, as I said, is the machine learning, area. Oh, this is a bit off, but I'm not crossing it. I'm just highlighting it. But I mean, it's okay. You have the slides later. I can send it, post it or whatever. Sentiment analysis also machine learning. App development, because like you have these, user interface, so you have some front end, and also if you are having this, where do you host your application? There's also like backend stuff they have to care about. Data engineering, sometimes, if you do something really sophisticated, you collect all this data and you want to really manage them well, then you have to maybe have somebody who's a data engineer to help you manage those. So it's very complicated. It's a teamwork to build a chatbot. So if you're now like, okay, I have Python in my computer, now I want to build a chatbot, it's quite difficult with just vanilla Python. It's quite difficult. So luckily, we have a lot of framework and tool available, which I would going to cover some of the popular ones with you later. But that's why open source is important, and we have all these tools available and we can use them. So the second thing, what a chatbot can and cannot do. So it's more like an expectation management. What you expect that you could achieve with your chatbot. So some of the time the chatbot failed, and I also, again, from my experience and also from what I see online, this is sometimes the reason. For example, some chatbot, they're trying too hard, so the expectations are too high. They want to pass the Turing test. They want to be as natural as possible. But sometimes it will really mess with your purpose of the chatbot. Because I talk about the dialogue, right? So if you go too far, then the dialogue is not going towards the goal that you want it to be. So then it's got really confusing. Yeah, this is basically what I'm trying to say. And or sometimes handle too many things together at the same time. And asking very different questions, and it doesn't. The dialogue flow is not really smooth, and it's really get the user confused. And and then user will be like me, right? Can I talk to a real person, please? You don't want that, right? Because then you have to. Then basically you're having a chatbot that's not really working. So if the dialogue flow is not very clear, then again it's make people feel very, very frustrating. For example, some users, they may not be very, very, very smart, or they don't, or sometimes they do it on purpose, that they would talk about something else, right? They would chit chat, and you should really help to diverse the conversation back to what the purpose is. For example, you have a chatbot that deal with the user's account, how much money this user still have in the account. If the user talk about something else, then maybe you should really go back to saying, okay, so about your account, so you bring the conversation back. It's like you're talking to someone and then somebody really sidetracked like me, the brain went crazy and think about something else and sidetrack too much, you have to be like, oh, wait a second, like, where were we? And go back to the conversation. So, and make it very clear, and your chatbot should not start chit-chatting too much, should be really going towards the goal. Because don't make your chatbot do something that is not the best at, it's not very good at, because that exposes the weakness of your chatbot. Oh, and I missed the last point. So, yeah, and the user actually will learn how to communicate with the chatbot efficiently and to get the job done. So it's a bit of a counter, like it's the other way around. It's like, oh, I want to be a chatbot that talks like a human to serve the human, but we are not there yet, and it kind of take a lot of effort. If you're not there yet, so maybe sometimes it's better to let your user adapt to how they can make use of this tool, this chatbot. So yeah, sometimes chatbot failed when they are not smart enough. They don't have enough training data, so the NLU is kind of broken. Like the example that I gave before, the user asks about the account balance, so the word balance should mean the money they have in the account. But balance, in English, it also mean other things. If your chatbot is not well trained, then it could be confused. And also, sometimes when you design what to say prompt back to the user, then you don't have enough variety of it. Of course, you can build a generative model, but that's quite difficult, and it kind of take a lot of fine-tuning and training another model. So if you don't have that, you just, okay, I would set some template to prompt back. Try to have more variety. Otherwise, your bot seems very, very dull and dumb, which is not a good thing. And avoid asking questions like one by one. Try to have a user can say one question and then you can get multiple information out of it, rather than asking one thing at a time. It's like have you ever call a customer service and then, oh, here are the options. Press 1 to check your balance. Press 2 to check your last transaction. Well, I would rather press the button than talking to the chatbot. Like, okay, I want to check the account balance, and then one by one. Maybe they can say like one sentence. Oh, I bought something yesterday, and now I want to know the balance and how much I spent. And then you know that they want two things, right? Not asking them one thing at a time. So that would really make your bot looks really smart. But again, you have to be clear how to get there and not to confuse the user. So yeah, some good examples that I've came across. I don't want to just say that, oh, chatbot is dumb, Some good example that I came across from my experience, who use Mac like I do. There's a Mac friend, yeah. Yeah, so I love the iCalendar ability in Mac, because what I do is it's not exactly a chatbot, but when you type a sentence saying like, I'm meeting with Joe tomorrow at 3 p.m. for coffee, then it will put in an event from that sentence for you. It could pick out the contents, the time and what you're doing, and tomorrow, the dates as well, and for you. So it's quite good NLP example that you have, because it's not just like you have to put things one by one. It understand the contents from it, so it's quite good. It also similar things happen in Gmail. Sometimes you see the address was highlighted, so you can press on it to find the map. So maybe start thinking about your chatbot could also have that ability to make it as human-like as possible. And also, sometimes, if you think that your chatbot is not that close to passing the Turing test, just tell your user that it's a chatbot. because sometimes your user could adapt, and if they know that it's talking to chatbot, and they know that, at first thing, it's like they don't think that they would be fooled or deceived by you because you're trying to replace a human to cut costs and then trying to make it look like human, let them know that it's a chatbot. So if they really need to, they can find a person at the end, and be clear that what information, what goal of the conversation will be. Very clear. And fail gracefully. Sometimes you have to have some fallback, in the framework that I used to build a chatbot before, Rasa, they have this called they have one particular action that you can take when your chatbot doesn't understand, what the conversation and they don't know what to do. Then you can prompt back something to, prompt back something to redirect the conversation or to ask again with gracefully, but not like you can have different instance of not just, oh, can you repeat? Can you repeat? You can be like, oh, I think you're talking about this. Is this correct? So you can at least try. So, okay, now we come to the part that we are talking about different framework that's available for you to use. Oh, sorry, skip too fast. Okay, Rasa is the one that I've used before. It's open source framework that you could use. They provide a community support through a forum. That's one thing I love about open source, because you can basically look at all this source code yourself, and you don't understand something, you have the community to help. You have a lot of you can even ask a question or ask on the developer on the GitHub, so you can open an issue and like, okay, this is what happened. So this is what it is. It's fully customizable. You can write your own custom functions for the chatbot to take actions and build your own pipeline. You can even choose what pipeline used to train your NLP component of your chatbot. You can choose, like, for example, you have a very generic chatbot that is talking about something. It's not too specific. Then you can maybe use a pre-trained model that is provided by Spacey. That's, you can understand, you don't have to have too much training data to train it. But if you have something like the example I gave before, balance means the money in your client or user's bank account, but not the word balance of like, balance yourself, then you can use the TensorFlow model to train it, to customize it. But the drawback is you have to provide a lot of training data, otherwise it's not really helping. You have to deploy it yourself, so you have to really build a UI and find a way to, to serve the back end of it, to deploy it maybe on the cloud or whatever you want to. It could be, connect with Slack or other things. So it's customizable, but you have to do it yourself. But they also provide an enterprise version, which I haven't used because I used the free stuff. So I haven't tried the enterprise version. If your company, is interested in using them, you may talk to them if you want to. The other one, Watson. Watson is by IBM. They also have a Slack community. You can ask questions. They also have the SDK. I haven't used Watson that much. I have been to their workshop before. For me, I feel like they provide an interface that is very UI, like GUI driven, that you can basically see how it's floating and different components. You can click on it to change things. I'm not a big fan of those, but I think for some people that may be an advantage. They also provide a free version for you to try, but of course, like if you use it commercially, maybe you have to think about a paid version. Dialogflow by Google, similar product. They have a Google group that you could ask questions and communicate with different users to discuss stuff, how things can be done. Again, SDK, you can use the API instead of just using the GUI interface. And for Dialogflow, I have been to a workshop in Amsterdam, actually. So they're trying to have this chatbot that connects to your phone, so you can talk to it, and then you can ask for the the TV programs and ask for different things. So the good thing about Google because like they have their own assistant, so you can hook it up with your Google Home Assistants and other things with your phone because you have the Google thing you can speak to. So this is the advantage of it. So if you use Rasa, for example, then you have to find your own clients for the speech to text if you want to have that functionality. Lex, very similar again, like by Amazon. If you already have some Amazon stack going on, then maybe it's more natural for you to think about Lex. I've tried using that before. They also provide all this stuff that you need, right? You have the forum, you have different SDKs, you like support all the languages you can think of. But my experience with Lex is that you don't got to choose the training pipeline. That's why at the end, when I started the project, I was like the first go-to was Lex, and then I switched to Rasa because I want to be able to control the training of the NLU part to make my bot to understand the language fully customizable. That I could see that like if I get enough data from my user, then I can retrain the pipeline rather than Amazon. They already or the other commercial ones that they already have the pre-trained model that is doing quite well, but it's not customizable as much. So yeah. All my emojis become black and white. But yeah, so this is a different comparisons, right? So when we have a new tool to use, the first thing that really that affects my choice would be the documentation. So my experience of using Lex, and it's just me, right? Like for Amazon products, the documentation is sometimes quite difficult to understand. It kind of needs some special knowledge to use it. So so that's why I feel like, I would think that is quite difficult compared to others. Like for example, of course, Rasa, they are a startup. They're also open source, so they really want to make the documentation as good as possible. So to their users, there will be more developers becoming their users. Dialogflow, because it's from Google, they know how to do the documentation right, so it's quite good. For the configuration, by the way, this is also from this blog post that they have these opinions. I'm just putting it in a table form, but I also change a little bit according to my experience. So so Watson is people said that Watson is quite good in kind of configuring it, but I feel like it's not that much. I don't feel that it's that much of a difference, and it doesn't affect me that much, so it's okay. For testing, the others because they provide a very nice platform, like a dashboard thing for you to test the functionality, so it's quite good. But for Rasa, they provide a command line interface on your local machine. So in that sense, so using the others, it's easier to compare your different test run and see the result. So yeah, they are better in that sense. So these are my point of view. So this table, I don't put the link there, so that's my point of view. Flexibility, of course, Rasa, like I said, I can control the training of the NLP unit. The others, they don't let you customize it so much. But that makes it a little bit more difficult to use. You have to have some understanding of NLP or how Spacey, how the backend works, or even TensorFlow. So it's not as easy as the others that you can just, plug in and use. For the price, I mean, open source for the win, yay! It's very. I don't have to explain much. So at the end of all these products that I have came across, more or less, that what would I choose to build another chatbot? I would ask myself all these questions. So what's the purpose of my chatbot? Like, what do I want to do? Do I want a chatbot that is more entertaining, that kind of pass the Turing test, and people can have a smooth conversation too? Or is it just very easy, just want to help the user to get the job done and they can log out? So what's the purpose? And what resources do you have? Do you have a lot of time to train your model, or do you want something that I don't mind paying a little bit for the service, but I just want to get the job done? How are you going to deploy it? What UI are you going to use? Do you want to put like a little chatbot thing on the right-hand side of your web, or do you want to connect it with the social media, or do you want to use it with Slack, with other channels? So how are you going to deploy? Or maybe like speech to text or text to speech. Then you maybe consider some products that with that built in, rather than you have to find another products to link them together. What skills level do you have if you do it by yourself? So do you want to deploy your own chatbot and do the hosting, everything yourself, or do you want it to be taken care of, like Amazon, Lex, and all these? Or do you want to, like, you have a lot of knowledge about machine learning, you want to train it, the NLP part, you want to have full control over it. So what do you need help with? So that's what you have to ask. And how much time you want to invest in it? Of course, everybody can be expert of everything if you practice it enough, but do you have the time? So, yeah, so I don't know about the time. Is it almost the end, or do I have a lot of time? How much time do I have, actually? Can somebody tell me? 5 minutes? To 10, okay. So I would quickly wrap up so you can ask questions. I have another workshop that use Rasa that help kind of teach you step by step of how to build a chatbot that I built. So this is here on this GitHub. So I will try to share the slides later, but I don't know how. But yeah, or I can show you the link after when this ends. But or I can share it on Twitter. Actually, you follow me on Twitter. But you can find the workshop on my GitHub as well. Like my GitHub is just my name, so it's like here. Yeah, start building a chatbot, and then you can ask questions. I will try my best to answer. But thank you very much for sitting here after lunch. Oh, I saw there's a, yeah, if somebody can pass the mic, that would be great, because I don't think, yeah. Yeah.
So just in few lines, how you would describe the typical pipeline of building chatbots, like starting from collecting data and so on, just in the structural, step 1, step 2, like in a few steps. Thank you.
Right, so for the steps, again, chatbot is a very broad term, right? It depends on what you want to do. For the one that I talk about, for example, Lex, Watson, and even Rasa, they have a pre-trained model that do the generic work. So to start with, you don't have to collect the data, like necessarily collect the data first. But of course, you mentioned a very good point, because so what I would suggest, right? So what I would suggest, for example, you build this Rasa chatbot, like follow the workshop. You build it, and then you maybe ask some tester to help you to test it. So to collect a bunch of how people will answer it and how people ask questions, collect those data, and then train it to your model before you really put it into production. Then that would make it better. So yeah, I think you can build it first, and then ask, you can have a testing period and ask your colleague or your hire people. I don't know if this is a big project or not, but to test it and then collect the data to retrain it. Yeah.
Hey, this is Mihai. I work at IBM, so I'm very familiar with some of the Watson technologies there. Just a question, what feature would you like to see in an enterprise chatbot platform, and to better support some of the needs of the type of development that you do? What would be your top 2 or 3 features?
Yeah, you can tell me more about Watson actually, because I told you I only been to
Happy
the workshop. But I think, in my point of view, what's good for the enterprise version, I think, because all these tools that's available, they are generic tools. They are not specific for a certain task. So if it's an enterprise version, I think I am a company, I would like to see support like specifically for my my product. Like, if I have a chatbot, let's say to do e-commerce, then I want to have the support for my e-commerce purpose. Like, for example, if I'm linked to a database for sale, then how you can like get the data from there and use on the chatbot and all these. So I want to see more specific help in those. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's
Thank you.
excellent. So I'll make sure I feed the Watson for banking, Watson for e-commerce back to the offering management. So thank you.
Thank you.
I was just wondering if any of these frameworks can handle translations automatically, like to maybe translate user input and then translate the output into the user's language automatically.
Yes, that's a very good question, actually. I can tell you what I know. Of course, I don't know every single one of them. For example, Rasa, they support different languages, but I don't think they have the translation function. But they will have, the NLP model. So when you train the models, you can basically plug in, let's say, a German model there. Then it was supposed to take the input as the German language, and then it would everything will be done in German. But it's not necessary. German translate to English and then training and then no. It's just like because the language model is in German, so that's how they like you can do it that way. But I know that because I was working in a partner of AWS, so I know that AWS, they also have other functions that they provide to do the translation. So maybe you have to combine the two services together to do it. I'm sure that Google will have the same, right? Because Google, you have Google Translate, so I'm sure that they will provide a similar service, so you can combine them to build one.
Another question? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.